we're going to be talking about a specific NASCAR driver that I think has a very good chance at winning the championship this year. He won 2 to 3 races last season. He made it into the Final Four thanks to a miraculous move. He hails from Florida. He's called the Watermelon Man. We're going to be talking about Mr. Ross Chastain, the driver of the number 1 car for Trackhouse Racing. Now, Ross Chastain is a very interesting driver because he has worked his way through the series. There was one, I think it was one year, it was either around 2016 or 2017, where he competed in all series, all races in every series. Trucks, Xfinity, and Cups. He did full duty in all 3 of them. Then he joined Nice Motorsports in the Truck Series. Did not bring a championship to them, but he was still very competitive. Then he moved on, obviously, into Xfinity Series with Colleague Racing and did very, very well for Colleague in that number 10 car. And then he finally got his break when he moved into the Chip Ganassi Racing, which eventually became Trackhouse Racing because Chip Ganassi sold his Cup Series team, which is still a move I still honestly say that it's just very, very shocking that even happened. But it's where Ross Chastain is now, and with Ross Chastain becoming a free agent this season, at the end of this season, I think I like what I see when it comes to Ross Chastain, because he was definitely the number 1 guy. Ironically that he drives the number 1, but he was the number 1 guy for Trackhouse Racing when it came to this past season, winning 2 to 3 multiple races, getting into the Final Four with that miraculous Hail-Melon move that NASCAR has now banned. So his move is going to be it's going to be a one and only thing. It's only happened one time and only will happen one time, and that car is being very preserved. And the thing is, you would expect that Ross Chastain would probably go through a slump this year. I think his slump would have been last year, because if you remember, in terms of full-time seasons, that was his second full-time season in the NASCAR Cup Series. And look what happened. He made it to the Championship 4. So things are only going to get better for Ross Chastain. And as long as the car, the 2022 next-gen car, stays very competitive, we can have 16 to 19 winners just like last season, that Ross Chastain has a very good chance of making the Championship 4. Because Ross Chastain is very good on the super speedways. He's very good when it comes to the road course. The only one I'm not really so sure about is the short tracks, but he did in fact finish in the top 5 in the last Martinsville race, beating Denny Hamlin thanks to that move. And, well, he finished behind Denny Hamlin, but he beat Denny Hamlin in the points to get to the next round. But really, I look at Ross Chastain and the way the guy drives. He's a very aggressive driver. And obviously, when it came to last season, he had many rivalries, including his big rivalry with Denny Hamlin. And Denny Hamlin didn't eventually do anything, and Ross Chastain still made it to the Final Four, funny enough, ahead of Denny Hamlin, his big rival for most of the year. But 2023 Trackhouse Racing, I think Ross Chastain, I think Ross Chastain is a lock to make it to the playoffs. His teammate Daniel Suarez, I'm not so sure about, but Ross Chastain is a lock. And I think the furthest Ross Chastain can go to is obviously the Championship 4. I don't think he'll win the championship this season, but I definitely think he can make it to the Championship 4. And a disappointment for Ross Chastain this season would have to be missing out on the playoffs. If Ross Chastain were to go into this season and miss out on the playoffs and not even win a single race, that would be a huge disappointment considering how good that Trackhouse team is and the potential of how good that team can be. It could get to a level of not a Rick Hendrick, but it could get to where Roush Fenway were when they were in their prime during the mid-2000s to late 2000s. I think that's a possibility where Trackhouse could get. It could even get to where Chip Ganassi Racing was, because Chip Ganassi was at least having at least 1 or 2 cars in the playoff system every single year. Obviously, when Kurt Busch was there, it was mostly Kurt Busch. Now it's Ross Chastain. I think Ross Chastain is going to be the leader of that team. Even though Daniel Suarez does have a big backing from Pitbull, who was a co-owner and is mainly there because of Daniel Suarez, I think Ross Chastain is the leader of this team. He's the number 1 driver. He drives the number 1. Ross Chastain is going to be a 2023 championship favorite. if he wins a championship, I would absolutely love that because he's from Florida. No matter what, he was born in Florida, so I would love to see a Florida man win the NASCAR 2023 Cup Series championship.